Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Old World Paranormal Podcast, aka the Paranormal TMZ. The only thing we need is that guy. Who's the host of that?
I could see I
Yeah,
see him. I just don't know his name. Then
holding his cup with a straw in it. But yeah,
Mr. Irrelevant.
unfortunately, yeah, we can't afford to get him. So you're stuck with Nick and I once again for another hour.
We're free.
Episode, yeah, episode 94. We've had an interesting couple of podcast interviews here over the last couple of weeks. Nick had an awesome weekend hanging out with B hashtag Be Like Bree and Sean Austin at a place that we'd visited together the previous weekend,
Right.
and this time had some pretty interesting results to say the least. It is an undisclosed location, so we are not at liberty to say where it was, but we can say that it was a place where a secret society met at one point in time. It was a brothel at another point. John Dillinger is rumored to have stayed there and taken in the festivities, would you say? And Nick was being accosted by some ghostly
I
uh,
I'm
women
bringing it
of the
upon
night.
myself. I really do. You know how I am, and
Unfortunately,
so I'll just put it out there. So we're sitting in a room, and we are talking to some working ladies. And I commented that, ladies, I have $20. What can that give me?
he was desperate for anything at that point.
Yes, I was desperate for some ghost love Saturday night for sure. And don't email me this. Just
Nick
don't hate me on
Carboni
this.
at Gmail.
Just don't. Okay. The response I got, and it's clear as day. Sean Austin has the recording. A lady replies, "I need a man to lick his dick." That was the reply for the $20.
And that's only what $20 got you.
I was gonna say
Tell,
that's quite a bit for $20.
tell him what she was going to do for 40.
So I did. I pushed the limits. You know me. I said, "Well, what can I get for $40?" And we got a reply, probably same woman, same tone, female tone. I mean, you never know for sure. But this reply was, "Need more women."
Okay.
You know, at this point, we're all fucking dying laughing in the room, and the session pretty much ended. And I'm like, "That's it. That's it. I've got the EVP of all EVPs. I am done. I retired."
And that just kind of backs up our claim that most stuff in the paranormal investigation community is somehow sexually related.
Oh,
Touch
sure.
my light.
It's all sexual innuendo. I swear to God.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So yeah, that being said, Nick and Bree and Sean had an amazing night. And here we are a couple days later, episode 94, ever approaching that magical number 100. Who's our guest going to be? We can't tell you. It's going to be a surprise.
I don't know who number 100 is going to be, but I'll tell you, I've been looking forward to this interview tonight for a few weeks now.
He really has. He really has. And with us tonight, we have Alex Matsuo. She is an author and a residential investigator. The website for her is thespookystuff.com. Super spooky. Super spooky. And she does have a book out. We'll let her talk about that this evening too. But please welcome to the show, Alex Matsuo. Thanks for taking time to join us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you will definitely be a changed one. If what Nick just told you about ghost hookers, it gives you any indication about the show, you're in for a wild ride.
I love ghost hookers. They're my favorite ghosts.
She likes ghost hookers. Let's roll.
I do like ghost hookers.
Yeah, I like to push the envelope. You know, it's not a residential
Likes
case.
to lick them too.
Well, whatever.
He doesn't buy that stamps with self-adhesive. He likes to lick them.
I mean, nothing shocks me. I mean, I taught a ghost how to say the C word, so.
Nice.
Oh, how long did that take?
It probably took 5-ish minutes. I did it like hooked on phonics style. you
Oh,
know,
nice.
with the
Hooked on
letter
Phonics
sounds
worked for
and
Nick, so
yeah.
thank you. I'll be here all week.
Oh gosh.
Oh, all right, we're going there tonight, huh? All right.
We've been there a long time ago.
Alex, tell us a little bit about we'll start it off just why the paranormal, how did you get into it, and how did this evolve into writing several books and etc.
Yeah, I mean, my origin story is not terribly unique. I mean, I had experiences when I was a kid. Uh, I always had a curiosity for it. I grew up in a very conservative Christian home, at least under my mom's rule. My grandma was a bit more liberal, but
Right.
yeah, but when you tell a kid they can't do something, what's it going to do? It's just going to drive them further into that direction that they want to explore. So I was reading Goosebumps books. I was scary stories that tell in the dark. I was watching Unsolved Mysteries, and I was really into like any sort of paranormal media, book, magazine I could even find in the 90s, which was a little limited. Um,
Yeah, to say.
just a little bit. And then I had a really concerning experience when I was 19 years old. I got into a really bad car accident, and long story short, the man I was sharing a trauma room with, he had passed away, and we weren't in the same accident. It was raining that night. Accidents
Right.
were everywhere all over the city. So we were sharing a trauma room. He died. I didn't, obviously, because I'm here right now. Otherwise, I would be your most amazing piece of paranormal evidence. Um,
Right.
hanging out with a headset, you
Alex,
know.
could you tell me where Jimmy Hoff was buried?
Um, but yeah, so he actually ended up attaching himself to me for about 8 months. And I would say that that was probably the turning point in my journey.
Mhm.
Because this happened in 2005, going into 2006. The paranormal community was very different in 2006. It did not exist in the way that it does today. Finding help was not easy. Um,
Right.
so once we did get the whole situation resolved, which was not very anticlimactic, it was just more so empathizing with the spirit and telling him to move on,
Right.
um, and that the dynamic was not a healthy one. Um, I started diving more into the paranormal. I mean, I had watched Ghost Hunters, so I knew there were people out there willing to help. It's just I couldn't find them.
Right.
Um, and so when I was getting towards the end of my master's degree, I started shadowing different teams because I did eventually find a team. I was like, oh, good. But they literally formed like in the next few years after the incident. So it's not like they were hiding like in a phone book or Google Map or not Google Maps, Yahoo groups or anything like that.
Right.
Um, they were formed a little bit after, and I'm like, oh, there's actually people that do this now. So I was shadowing some of them. uh, I was really busy at the time, and I had decided that I didn't really want to be on another team that was run by somebody else because I knew my availability was going to be a hot mess. So I decided to start my own team instead
Gotcha.
because I
Well,
could
that
be
makes
my own
sense.
boss.
Yep.
I could be my own boss. Literally, it was nothing like with drama or anything like that. It was just like I can be forgiving of my own schedule, so I'll just do this myself. Um, Found a lot of people that were interested. I really wanted to be a resource in my community. From the experience that I had, I didn't want people to feel feel like they were in a hopeless
Hmm.
situation or couldn't find help. And then also took some classes, read a lot of books, looked at what they were doing on TV. And back in 2011, I mean, the paranormal media landscape was not what it is today. It was a bit more, I think, educational and insightful, just my personal opinion.
Oh,
Um,
100%. 100%.
and so I actually learned a bit from TV also, just of how to like take baseline readings, how to set up, and
Hmm.
um, got a mentor. Uh, and yeah, I just kind of started going from there. And I wrote my first book in 2014, or published my first book in 2014, and then realized I could write a book, like it was possible. And I just really started diving headfirst into the research and the lore, especially from an anthropological and a wow, I can't talk tonight. Uh, sociology aspect.
Yeah.
Just seeing like the relationship between ghost stories and folklore and hauntings and how we perceive hauntings
Yeah.
and what we experience today. And I'm still fascinated with all of that.
So you didn't really, did you have a writing background before you started your first book, or?
I mean, I got through grad school, which you have to do a lot of writing in grad school, and my papers weren't terrible. They weren't
Right.
terrible. So, um, but yeah, but I was very much, and I always believed that I wasn't a good writer. Um, I didn't do well in English, at least essay wise. Um, I homeschooled my senior year of high school, and my mom basically said, I'm going to fix your writing. And I'm like, okay. And having your mom fix your writings, I do not recommend that, by the way. I do not
Right.
recommend.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing if you get feedback from a teacher and you're like, oh, okay. But then when it's your mom, it's like I was arguing and debating with her, like, hey, so yeah, a semicolon does belong there. And she'd be like, no, it doesn't. So it was more volatile, but I think I actually ended up learning more about writing from fighting her.
Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense.
Totally.
So what'd you end up going to the school for?
This is the funny part. So my master's degree and my bachelor's are in theater.
Okay.
I was, well, still am. I'm not performing right now, but um, I've been an actor since I was about 10 years old. I did film and TV, well, me TV, and I did indie films growing up. And I did a lot of theater, a lot of musical theater. Um, I was even a performer at a theme park for a couple years. I mean, I was deep into it and I thought, oh yeah, Broadway, we're gonna go to Broadway and do all these things. And my graduate school, like getting an MFA in acting is very valuable for, theater. But
Mhm.
I didn't get into any MFA programs. And the guy who ran the theater department, he was like, well, would you be open to an MA, getting an MA in theater just to, so you're still in school. And if you want to pursue an MFA, you can still do that. And I was like, if I get in, sure. I got into the MA program at my college and still acting, still doing the acting thing, but I dove more into the research side of it. My primary focus of study was Shakespearean England and avant-garde theater, and theater's relationship with sociology and power dynamics.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and that's actually where I really cut my teeth research-wise. And all of my projects had some sort of paranormal tie to it. Like I was really fascinated with the way Shakespeare used ghosts in his plays,
Mhm.
and what that commentary meant for like Elizabethan England. Yeah, I really cut my teeth research wise in grad school.
Gotcha. It's way over my head. Be honest with you. I know flooring and ghosts. That's it.
He's only like 5'2", so most things are over his head anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Listen here, you big oaf.
Dang.
I am.
5'7".
As I say, you're taller than me and I'm 5'5". So,
5'7"
Yeah.
in heels, maybe.
Anyways,
oh my God.
so how many actual books have you written so far?
Want to say, yeah, I'm counting in my head, 7 or 8 now, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not
And
quite at Richard Estep level yet with like, 40 something books. I mean, that's goals. That's goals right there. But I also work a full-time job, so I'm like
right.
gets a little tricky to write, especially when in a way, I do a lot of writing at my day job too. So by the time I'm done with work, I'm like, I don't want to look at a computer right now. I don't want to type the word like I just want to sit on the couch and watch TV.
So the last one you've written, I think it's the last one. It's the one I
Mhm.
purchased off you when we met at the Hope Paracon.
Yep.
I don't remember the title of it. What is it's something
Women of the paranormal,
Women of the Paranormal. There you go.
Yes.
which
Right.
is something that we talk about a lot on the show.
We do. That's what I was leading into. So for me, and Sean talks about it a lot, the shift of the paranormal right now.
Mhm.
And I think it's a huge shift coming, and I think it's more female related.
Mhm.
I think women are going to be the dominant, which let me rephrase that. Women are the dominant in the paranormal. It might not be in leading roles right now, but I think it's shifting that way, and I think it should shift that way for numerous reasons. Let's say you go to a para convention, okay? 90% of the people that are going to be walking through them doors are women,
Mhm.
and half the men are there because they're being drugged by their female counterpart. You know, how many times they've walked up to the table and you're having a conversation with the couple and the guy's just standing there like,
Yep.
he's all like, oh my God, this and this and this and this. And oh my God, telling you stories. And you look at him like, she just drug you here, right? He's like, yeah, I'm just here. I don't want to be here.
Yep. I see that
So
often.
you got that aspect. I'm also a firm believer that women in the spiritual sense, energy sense, are a lot stronger than men.
Mhm.
But the only thing us men have get going is we can go pick up something heavy and move it. That's about it. And
And see what
anymore,
a
I
ghost
don't even
hooker
know
will
if
do
that'll
for
work.
20 bucks.
What'd you say?
And see what a ghost hooker will do for 20 bucks.
Now look,
Oh
Sean. I
gosh.
mean,
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
talking to a ghost from like 100 years ago. Times were
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Plus, $20, like, it's not going to get you far.
20 bucks is 20 bucks.
I mean, 20 bucks might get you a couple strokes now, but that's
Yeah,
about it.
yeah. Look at it, we're like, nope.
Nope.
Anyways.
Anyway.
No, I true.
I love how we
Yeah.
were able to circle back to the hooker to the ghost hookers.
Oh, that'll happen several times. Trust me.
He'll at least bring it up 2 more times. I swear to God. So, anyways, Coletta, women of the paranormal, I do think next couple years going to be complete. I mean, look at a person like yourself, Alex. I've followed you a lot on social media. Finally got to meet you at a Hope Paracon, and you're very outspoken in the paranormal.
It's a good way to describe it. Yeah.
And then, there's a lot of other ladies out there. I mean, but look at Bree and what Bree's doing. She's going to these locations by herself, staying there for gosh know how long. I'm telling you, I don't know if I could do that personally. I don't know if I could stay at the Monroe house for 19 hours by myself. You know, um, I don't know if I'm a well representation of the men, but shut up. Well, how do you feel? I know you're very outspoken and in a lot of ways in the paranormal. Do you think I'm on the right path here?
I think you're on track. I think there is definitely a shift happening. And I think one of the biggest indicators of that shift is a lot of paranormal TV shows were not renewed in mainstream media.
Mm-hmm.
I think the formula that has existed for the last 15, 20 years, I think people have spoken out that they're tired of it, especially with the gross lack of representation.
Mm-hmm.
I've always said that the paranormal media space, at least, is always like 5 years behind.
Right.
Um, like because if you look at Netflix and movies and just CW TV, you'll see that there's a lot more diversity on TV now, like with actors and representation. And when you look at paranormal TV, that's not it at all. It's all the same type of person at the forefront, and it's usually a man. Um, I mean, the most popular show is an all male cast.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still, I mean, I will say there was probably a lot of wise business decisions behind that too. But when you have a program that's so successful, other producers and programs are going to try to emulate that. And unfortunately, that came at the cost of representation for women and people of color, especially. But now that a lot of these shows have been canceled or not renewed, I think that's going to be an opportunity. One, I think all of these producers and TV networks are going to be doing a pretty in-depth analysis of what audiences are wanting. Because the audience that they catered to is the audience from 20 years ago.
Correct.
Uh, that
Correct.
audience does not exist anymore. Um, but unfortunately, what has happened, with when you have such a male-dominated space with paranormal entertainment, they're the ones who drive tickets to events. So you start to see a very male heavy promotional materials. You don't see a lot of women in the headliners. I mean, there was even an event I saw a couple days ago. I counted, and it's actually for a very big Paracon. And I counted, and there was, I think, 15 men and 4 women. And I'm like, really? you know, and I don't want to say that choices like that are intentional, but when and it's not just me that's been outspoken about more representation in events, it's a widespread thing. I mean, a lot of people are saying something now. And then when I see that, I mean, there was a huge Paracon that had like a ton of guests. They had like, I want to say like 30 men, and then there was like 3 women. And I'm like, that feels intentional. At that point, that almost feels intentional. I don't want to throw around unfounded accusations, but I feel like in the way that and it's not like all 30 of these men were big TV people either. I mean, there are also content creators, who
Say that again.
also content create. I'm very just. I'm probably going to get in trouble. I kind of draw a line between content creators and investigators and researchers and TV people. There's a difference. There's a difference.
There's a huge fucking difference.
It's a huge difference, and a lot of people aren't willing to acknowledge that. Um, that'd be like me putting Lloyd Auerbach at the same level as Sam and Colby. Like, no, like you can't put people like that, together and say that they're the same.
Yeah.
Soapbox is about to come out. Anyway,
Look, I know a lot of them, content creators, whatever you want to call them,
mhm.
and you can ask Sean. We will call them out. They will message us. We will call them the fuck out. We don't care.
Mhm.
And now, personally, you might be a great person.
Yeah.
Personally, you're fine. But as far as career and what you're doing with your entertainment bullshit, no, I'm not gonna agree with you. And it is what it is.
Portraying something they're not. And,
Yeah.
also, and kind of piggybacking off what you were saying about, women on, the TV shows and stuff, that's changed a lot too, because, here we're talking, 10, 15 years ago, you always had these TV shows that had your stereotypical hot blonde chick or
Yep.
whatever on there, right? And now, not so much, because now you've got teams of women, and you've got I was going to say, if there's even a whole lot of women on a lot of these shows anymore, but that kind of stigma has kind of gone away a little bit.
Mhm.
And now, if you look to these YouTube content creators or whatever, there's more men than there are women. It was
Yeah.
almost like in the paranormal media world, in the TV world, the sex sells, I guess you could say.
Mhm.
People would go to these shows to watch them. They go to conventions to meet the hot girl. And that's just
Mhm.
really not the case anymore.
Yeah.
But it's still a problem. You look, even in the
Yeah.
last 8 years, the TV shows, you start to see where it'd be 4 or 5 men, then all of a sudden it would be 4 men and a woman.
Mhm.
Then eventually, said woman would get popular or whatnot, and then like, okay, we want her on the show. We want her to be like co-headliner, so
Yep.
we'll stick Nick Groff in there with you, or we're gonna put you in the show, but it's gonna be 2 other guys. One
Yep.
guy will be the main guy, the other guy will be a techie, and we'll put you in as the medium. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? It's like there's always the stipulation. Even
Yep.
even with the Dead Files, yes, it was just Amy, but yet it was Steve. It's like I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
and now Cindy has taken Amy's place, and she's doing a fantastic job. But
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting, so actually one of the shows I did dive into and I actually liked was I think it's called Repossessed on Hulu with yeah. But the funny thing was you had two women on that show and then you had one male, but that male was still the lead.
right,
And I was like, all right, we got a little closer. Like just we took a baby step, but um there were but there was an opportunity there that wasn't taken and I was quite disappointed. Um but yeah, it's like I said, with a lot of these shows not getting renewed, which I will empathize with because a bunch of people lost their jobs. You know, that does stink. Um, but it seems like I'm hoping that maybe with a bunch of these shows not getting renewed, like we can kind of wipe the slate clean a little bit and maybe have some shows in development that are more female driven, more diverse. I mean, and I'm not like talking like put like Ghost Brothers where you put them all in one show and call that diversity. Um, I mean, I've had and I'm part Asian. Joe Chin was my representation on, paranormal TV, and I
Love that
love
guy.
Joe. Yeah. But I've talked to other people of color too, and there's a lot of mixed feelings with Ghost Brothers because yeah, you have all the diversity on a network all put into one show and not integrated into the different shows. And I think that's something that's important to point out. Um, so, and, women, marginalized people, people of color, there's more of a struggle to find a space, especially with like the paranormal, event circuit. And it's hard because they get told, well, you just need to buy a table and you need to work hard and you need to do all these things to get noticed. But they're always coming from TV celebs who already had a foot in the door. You know,
right, right,
a lot of them start, and I'm calling this out because I'm a theater person. I'm gonna call this out. A lot of them are actors. A
right,
Mhm.
lot of them are actors, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. But they're speaking from a place of privilege, and they didn't have to start. A lot of them did not have to start at the very bottom. Um, yeah, they went through the grump work with auditions, but they didn't have to prove themselves in an event circuit like, and I still deal with it too. I mean, I've been on TV 3 times, 4 times now. I still have to fight to be seen as a valid guest. And then a guy gets one TV spot and he's like put in as a headliner and put in as seen on Travel Channel. And I'm sitting here like, I've been on Travel Channel like 3 times, but why am I like less qualified
right.
than the guy who's had his 115 minutes of fame. So that whole circuit still has a preference. That's a gentler word. I was going to use bias, but preference is a gentler word for that.
There's two problems with this whole thing.
Hmm.
One, you get somebody on TV that maybe been on an episode, 2 episodes, maybe they did one TV show. Who fucking cares? All right. The second thing is when you reach out to get into a bigger Paracon, and the first thing they're going to ask you is how many followers do you have?
Yep.
Well, what does that matter? I can go on Instagram and buy 50,000 followers if I want to, get a bunch of bots and say this or that if I fucking want to.
Yep.
But I'm gonna tell you right now, 80% of the people that walk into this para convention or celebrities, I got more knowledge in my left hand than they do their whole fucking body. Just
Yeah,
because you're on TV doesn't mean you know shit.
that's exactly it. That's exactly it. You've hit the nail on the head. I've gotten into full out like not screaming matches, but like flame wars on social media because I've said things like just because you have a million followers, it doesn't mean you know more about the paranormal than anybody else. What it means is you know how to market yourself. It means
Correct.
you know social media. That's
Right.
all it means. It doesn't mean you know more about the paranormal than other people. I mean, I float in the parapsychology world too. So I donate to the Rhine monthly and I do their webinars. ASIP, the Association of Scientific Study of Anomalous Phenomena. They're based out of the UK. It's a mouthful. But they do weekly webinars, and I try to catch as many of them as I can. And literally, it's like $20 for a year-long membership.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm reading the parapsychology journals, and I have encountered some really brilliant people that I'm like, holy cow, more people need to know you exist.
Correct.
Like, more people need to know the work that you're doing, but because they don't have, even 10,000 followers on Instagram, they're not acknowledged and they're not given a platform. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, somebody just validated the presence of, spirit voices via like this device that they built. I want to hear them talk. I don't want to hear about TV personality number 3 and the scariest encounters they've had in their life. Like, I don't want to hear about that. I want to hear about the research. I want to hear about what are you studying? What are you testing right now? Um, and I wish we had more of a community for that. And I think we're actually I think there are more people who want that. And I say that because, I made a post on my Facebook saying, hey, I'm thinking of having a research get together in Gettysburg. Nick, you probably saw that post and how many
Mhm.
comments there are, but people are like, I'm in. And I've had people in Gettysburg reach out to me and they're like, we'll give you a space.
Right.
We'll give you a space to do this. And I'm like, really? Okay. But I think this may be something that more people want than we think. And I think there's so much saturation in the Paracon circuit now of like the same thing. It's the same event. Not that there's not a place for them, but I think because when you get so much duplicity and duplication with the same event over and over again and networking, I think a lot of people just want to go back to, hey, let's look at the research.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
let's do the research. I don't know. I was just very surprised. I was like, oh, maybe I can get a conference room at a hotel for like $50 an hour and 10
Yeah.
of us get together and just share what we're doing. But no, it's like it's snowballed into something bigger, which now I'm like, oh crap,
It's
I gotta.
awesome. That's awesome.
It's great. It's great. But yeah, and I have people who are like, "Oh yeah, I have space in my shop if you need like a workshop space or hey, my friend owns this hotel. I can get you some conference space for a discount." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." It's like, "Okay, cool." And people are like, "How can I help?" I want to volunteer. How can I help? And it's so cool to see the community come together like that.
Yeah, I would much rather sit next to a person that is pushing the field forward,
Mhm.
breaking the mold, thinking outside the box, coming up with new research, coming up with new thought idea. I mean, the whole 9 yards. I'd rather sit next to somebody at a Paracon than two knuckleheads that were got on a Netflix show for God knows whatever reason. You know what I'm saying? And I'm looking at these two, and they're walking around like I'm the fucking shit. And I'm thinking, who are you? Like,
Right. I was on the 6th season of this show on episode 12, and I'm like,
For 5 seconds.
right.
cool. It's like, yeah, you probably sat in the chair for 2 hours and they used probably 30 seconds of your content.
Hmm.
So,
Like you saw me at the Paracon. I'm sitting there. I'm selling some stuff to help cover cost of traveling. I'm promoting just my paranormal team. This and that. I could have put a banner up said I was on this show, this show, this show, this show, this show. Have a book coming out. Pretty successful podcast. Blah 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 blah. I could put all that shit. That's fucking retarded.
hmm
I'm like, I'm just here. I don't really care. I want to meet some people that are walking in, talk to some people. A few of them will tell you some really cool, interesting stories that's happening to them, and to me, that's all worth it. It's networking. And
hmm
I want to piggyback on the Hope Paracon. Now, granted, we really want to help Brooke next year to help
Yeah.
make that a little bigger. But
That's a good cause too. Yeah.
so I'm sitting in the corner. Lauren is sitting next to me. Then you have Crystal Ann. On the right of me, you have Jen, Troy, and then you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about it, I'm in the corner of all these women that are, to me, badasses in the paranormal and are pushing the paranormal forward. And I'm just sitting here like, hi guys. Hi. Hi guys. I don't belong here. I'm gonna go on the other side with
Oh,
Santiago and just yell hiya.
you always know when Santiago walks into a room too. He makes
So
his presence known.
I, I would say you're a huge advocate of what you think is right, and you will push what you think should be right. And this week was it? No, last week was a huge eye opener for a lot of people in the paranormal. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people stepped out, said a lot of things that they've been holding on to for a long time. Fortunately or unfortunately, this all was just targeted to one person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, other people were like, well, it's unfair to cancel culture this person and blah blah blah. And I'm like, no, this guy had it coming.
Yeah, I struggle with the term cancel culture, because there's a difference between cancel culture and accountability. And I think in terms of this particular individual, this was accountability. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think because I knew about this person and the questionable practices of how they got to where they were over a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And several people talked to me about it. And I think there was a lot of struggle with whether or not to come out and talk about it because one, this was a person of color. Diversity in the field is very few and far between. But also there was some really wrong things occurring. I'm gonna say this allegedly because we can't prove it, but buying likes, buying followers. I mean, all you have to do is really look at this person's Instagram, and you can tell if somebody buys, their followers. It's one thing if you go viral. If you go viral and you get a bump in followers, that makes sense. But this person never got enough video views or content views and likes to justify 700,000 followers. But I kept that to myself, and I will still say that's allegedly because I can't prove it. But as someone who has worked in the social media space, and other content creators who are way more well versed in that area, like Kalani had a lot to share with me too, information about that. That I was like, oh, that's interesting. But for me, what I was waiting for like the hard, substantial proof.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes like you hear things, but if you don't have the proof, you can't really say anything. And when I was going through his Instagram and looking, and then of course I got sent screenshots and you know, all you got to do is get people who have 30 minutes free, who don't have anything to do for 30 minutes. We could change the world. If everyone collectively got together for like an hour of like, hey, let's dedicate ourselves to a particular cause, you can get so much done. Because this was truly a collective effort. Um, and once I saw that this person was lifting the images of other creators, I was like, nope, I'm done. This is
Right.
it. This is the hardcore substantial proof that we've been waiting for. And once that happened, it was almost like pulling a thread in a poorly knit scarf. Like it just all unraveled because then it turned out that this person was using a location for free, charging a ton of money, and then not sharing it with the owners. Like it just started unraveling, like I cannot believe how quickly the dominoes fell. Like it was
So
astounding.
a little backstory on our buddy. Um, I met him a little over a year ago. He came to the bell.
Mm-hmm.
He messaged us and asked, I'm so and so. I'm like, well, yeah, you want to come by, blah blah blah. So we let him at the bell, and we let him investigate and this or that. That was it. Well, Sean and I end up having this gentleman on this podcast,
Oh.
and it's interesting. So I'm poking at him because I'm talking about his followers on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he's like, oh, I'm just blessed. I'm blessed. I'm blessed. And I'm like, okay, dude. I said, out of your 55,000 followers in your analytics, go to your analytics. Let me know how many of them are women. Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't know you can do that. Oh, hold on. Bullshit. You can do that. So he goes in there and turns out it's like 81% of his followers are women. And I said, okay, out of those 81%, how many are of the age of 16 to, let's say, 25? Just breaks it down, and it was like 65, 68%, something like that.
Wow.
We keep going on in the interview, and I'm poking at him, and he's not getting it. And I'm like, I said, Corbin. Yes, we're talking about Corbin. Come on, people. I said, Corbin, you're a very good-looking gentleman. Oh yeah, well, thanks. And I'm like, Corbin, you are a good-looking gentleman. It don't matter what you're doing. You're gonna get on there. You're gonna get a bunch of little teeny bopper girls chasing you around. So we kind of poked fun him with that, and then we moved on to his investigating techniques, and I referred to doing EVP burst, and he didn't know what EVP was, and so I told him what it was. He's like, "Oh, I don't do that. I don't have the patience for that." It's on the podcast. Swear to God. So right then, I knew what he was doing, and it just escalated. And of course, a week and a half ago, and Sean and I poke fun of him all the time. We post shit on our threads. He posts the ghost energy drink picture, but he says ghosted. Okay. Screenshot it and we sent it to our thread. And we're fucking just cracking on him left and right. And I sat on this for a few days. So I came home and it was a Monday after work. And I'm sitting right here and I'm taking my bottle of Advil like I do faithfully because I'm old and I hurt.
Yep, I feel
I
that.
take my phone and I take the picture and I posted, oh my God, I'm so blessed to be sponsored by the knockoff brand of Advil. So this was on a Monday. And everybody's going crazy. They're laughing, blah, blah, blah. Tuesday goes by. Wednesday. Now, I don't know what the fuck happened Wednesday. I don't know who started it. I don't know if it was you or if it was Sky, whatever. But holy shit, did the paranormal community come together actually for once in a good way.
I was actually really thrilled to see how well how the community came together, and not just a dog pile on Corbin. I mean,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
but because it turned out people were getting scammed. And I saw location owners step up and say, hey, you can come to my location, no, free of charge. I had people, I saw people saying like, hey, if you want, equipment, I'm happy to, share some stuff. And I was just so impressed with how the community came together. It was actually beautiful. I was like, wow, I feel like this is what we needed. Like we needed to bond.
Yeah, it was like somebody needed to poke the elephant in the room and
Hmm.
let it out. Everybody let it out. Everybody's thinking the same thing, that not everybody, the people that love the integrity of the paranormal field, that
Hmm.
truly love the paranormal, truly love the research, truly love every aspect of it. Those are the people, and they finally came forward. Enough is enough with the entertainment, lies, bullshit. We've had enough, from the TV shows, and now it's switching to, streaming networks, to YouTube, to TikTok, those formats. We ain't gonna have it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We're tired of it.
Yep. I think you're right, and I think there's also been, and you've probably seen me use this word a lot, but culture of silence.
Mhm.
It's very prevalent in the community, especially when it comes to like, oh, I know this person is problematic, but I don't want to break ties with them because there could be a networking opportunity in there.
Right.
And my whole thing is, and I've said this before, I'll say it again. This does not pay my bills. Like it pays
Mhm.
some bills because I am monetized, but this isn't like quit my job money.
Right.
And I'm not going to bend over backwards and break my back for somebody's $5, which if someone buys my book off of Amazon, that's about how much I get, you
Right.
know? Um, and I've seen people who have either joined my Patreon or they've watched my videos or they've bought books from me, almost use that as like as a power trip of like, well, I bought your book and how dare you call me out for saying the N word? I mean, I bought your book. And I'm like, oh, excuse me? Excuse me? Like, I'm sorry, just because you bought something from me doesn't mean you can, come into my, and this was in my space, like, being derogatory. But I think, people don't want to lose networking opportunities, or they don't want to like, oh, well, if I piss this person off, I'm going to piss someone else off. And, I mean, that's how I'm not invited to a couple of events now because I pissed off an event planner's friend. Um, but for me, I'm like, I think this has instigated or started this trend of people being afraid to speak out. And when there's obvious, like, and then in this case, in Corbin's case, it was obvious. Like, it was
Right.
obvious, but you're right. It's that elephant in the room that nobody wanted to say anything about. And I think, and I will say, I think it was Sky. It was Sky in India that really like got this moving. Um, and then I posted it and it just kind of went, I want to say it was a collective effort, but I will give Sky and India the credit. Um,
Do you notice a trend here,
hmm.
Sean?
Oh,
The three names:
Yeah.
Sky, India, Alex.
Mhm.
3 females.
Yeah.
yeah.
You're leading the way. You're leading the way because we're just idiots. We just sit back.
No, but I think there are, and actually this brings up a really interesting point of there were a lot of men who stepped up and also started saying something too. And I think like when I saw Kalani, I think when Kalani went public too and started sharing his thoughts on that, I think that really helped drive it. And this is where, you know, men being allies and using, I mean, there is male privilege. I mean, it is something that does exist, unfortunately. Um,
Hold on, I'm gonna look for
Is,
that real quick.
is it
Hold
over
on.
there at your house, Nick?
I don't see it over here. Do you see it
It's
over?
on that shelf back there, I think. No.
But I think there is a power though when, when you also have, the men stepping up and also saying something. Um, because unfortunately when women say things, we get labeled as being dramatic, emotional, or my favorite one that I got called was a feminist harpy. That's screeching
That's a
feminist
new one.
harpy. Yeah, I was called a screeching feminist harpy, which I
That
was like,
belongs on a t-shirt
That's
yeah,
definitely a
I
t-shirt.
need a t-shirt.
for
That's
sure.
yeah.
We can make that happen.
And I need a harpy
We know
going.
somebody.
Yeah, and I need a screaming harpy on it. But yeah, so I think and this is unfortunate, but this is the climate, the social climate that is prevalent in the field. But I think there is a power, there is a credibility or a validity that comes through when, somebody like when a man speaks out about this same issue. Um, But yeah, I mean, I have to say, like when Kalani spoke out and Nick, and you spoke out, and also you were very much a great support, internally as well. I think, and that's the other thing that I thought was beautiful with, the way the community came together is we everyone came together and supported each other. And I got a lot of private messages too saying, hey, thank you for saying something. If you want to vent, I'm here. It's like I got your back. It was just really neat see and experience that.
I knew he was I knew he was a snake, but I didn't know it was that deep.
I didn't either. Initially when I went into this, I knew about well, again, the alleged purchasing of likes and lifting other people's content, which is honestly, that was a stupid thing. It's in the world of reverse image search, um, and plus the blaming of the manager.
Does this manager exist?
I don't think this manager exists. So, as someone who has worked in Hollywood and worked in the entertainment business, who has had a social media manager in the past or has worked as a social media manager, social media 101, authenticity is key. Um, I mean, I remember my first acting class when I was 10 years old. Never lie on your resume. Never lie, because if it comes out that you lied, you would be deemed untrustworthy in the field. And for a manager to say, oh yeah, you have to fake and lie about this in order to get anywhere, I don't believe it. I
Right.
absolutely do not believe it. And I mean, if I were him and I was getting dragged because of this manager, I would be naming the manager.
Mhm.
I would have named the manager,
Yeah.
you know? um so I don't think they exist, but so the evading of responsibility was a big one. um but also just social media wise, you want to maintain an authentic voice. And the manager also had the same spelling errors as him, but then would sign as management. Now, oh, there was a side of me of like, well, maybe the manager was trying to match his syntax, but then I'm like, to make it seem like it was him. But if that was the case, they wouldn't have signed the caption as management. So there's just a
So
lot of stupid mistakes.
the last event that Sean and I were a part of at the Bell Mansion before the whole split was our March event where we highlighted YouTubers and TikTokers
Hmm.
because they're hot, and it was a very successful event. We had a lot of people through the door, but Kalani and Ryan and Dave from Paranormal Quest
Mm.
through the a massive fit come to me and they're like telling me to throw Corbin out of the building
Oh, wow.
because they were doing a public ghost hunt that night,
Hmm.
and Corbin was going around telling everybody that they said it was okay, and then Corbin came and asked me, which he did, but I said this isn't my event. You need to get permission from Lonnie, Savannah, Ryan, and Dave. So he goes upstairs and tells them that I told him it was okay, which I end up
Like
throwing
y'all
him.
wouldn't have talked to each other.
Right, right. They come up to me and I'm like, no, I never said that. So I end up throwing him out of the building.
And this is the other thing about not all content creators, because, I like Kalani, I like Becky Galentine. There are some really big creators that I'm like, you're cool. You're cool. I like you. You're cool. And Kalani knows where I stand on, and Becky know where I stand on like researchers and content creators. And Becky's a fantastic researcher, though. Becky is fantastic. But I think when other content creators like Corbin or like these other people or even up and comers, they see the paranormal as like this, I guess, opportunity as a stepping stone. And this is something Kalani and I actually talked about a lot is, there's a respect factor and an admiration for the paranormal that we all have, and that's why we're here.
Right.
But then there's other people who see this as an opportunity for exposure or an opportunity to get tons of likes and follows, and who don't know what the heck they're doing. Um, and I did notice something amiss when Corbin was asking me about my thoughts on demons, just randomly. And I'm like, and I knew he was developing a ghost hunting class. And I've had my stuff stolen before, and I'm like, I'm not building your curriculum. I ain't building your curriculum. So I gave him like my honestly realistic answer of like, listen, I'm agnostic, spiritual. I'm not sure I believe in the Christian concept of demons. Like I don't
Right.
think I align to that. and he's like, well, you don't think that, what about elementals and evil spirits then? And I'm like, listen, if a person was a jerk in real life, they could be a jerk in death. Elementals, I think elementals like to mess with you sometimes. So, and others, and I think ghosts can mess with you too. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I may troll some ghost hunters in about 100 years, like, ooh, I'm a demon. Whoa, Yeah.
Right.
It's like, what do you want me to do? Um, but he was asking some really, and also I work in the world of learning and class development too. So he was asking me very specific question. I'm like, mm, I know where this could be going. This could be going on someone's crappy PowerPoint.
Yeah, yeah. That is
So, but for me, I'm like, why are you asking me basic stuff when you're a celebrity ghost hunter? You're going on TV or on your local TV networks, establishing this credibility. That's the thing. It's like you're establishing yourself as this expert or as this authoritative figure in the field. And just a disclaimer, this is all my personal opinion, which I have
preach.
posted very publicly. So and it makes me not sad, just frustrated of like, it stinks that people see this as a stepping stone towards fame, but what is that fame? Maybe a season or two on a ghost hunting show. I mean,
The
I always
paranormal is
gauge,
not going to make you rich.
no, and it's not going to make you famous either unless you're, Zach Bagans. Um, this is how I gauge like how important something is
We
in the
don't say that
paranormal.
name on the show.
Oh, sorry.
We have beef. We don't say that
This
name on the show.
Oh,
Sean,
I could give
Sean's
I could say my nickname for him, Thackeray
I've got a
Bagoon.
few.
what is it?
Bagel bites, or mine is Thackeray Bagoons.
I like that.
Yeah, Thackeray Bagoons. You say with
That's
a,
what we're doing.
yeah, or bagel bites, from the one podcast, and that's why we drink. They call them bagel bites.
There you go.
That's a good one too. No, I always gauge like the severity of paranormal drama and how important it is by talking to my husband because he's not in this community at all. And I'll tell him about what's going on, and he's like, "What? I don't
Sounds
know
like
who
high
that
school.
is." Yeah, he's like, "I don't know who that is." But when I did tell him the Corbin thing, he was like, "Tell me more." You know, he's like sitting next to me on the couch going like, "Oh my gosh." So I was like, okay, this is important. But if I'm talking about like beef I'm having with a TV celeb, he's like, "Who is that?" And that person has been on like several seasons of multiple shows. And I'm like, okay, well, if my husband doesn't know who this person is,
Right.
and he's well in tuned in media, he's very well in tuned in that, then it's like that's how I know. I'm like, all right, this isn't relevant. This isn't important.
Yeah. There's maybe 4 or 5 people
Hmm.
in the paranormal ever that could walk down the street and I think everybody would recognize them. Other than
Yep.
that, that's it.
And most of them are dead. Well, two of them are dead
So
that I know.
I don't
So
know.
it's,
Um, the other big elephant in the room, paranormal wise, is a lot of predator, sexual harassment, shit
yeah,
like that. Um,
yeah.
I
Mm,
would love to dive into that, but I don't want to keep you here all night. We will definitely address that at another time. But
yeah.
right now, I'm just saying it's a huge problem.
It is, and there are a lot of people who are protecting them, or discounting it as locker room talk. I had a really intense conversation with a group of paranormal people a couple weeks ago, and they're talking about, well, I mean, what if something I said, 10 years ago, I could get canceled for that now. And I'm like, well, what'd you say? Are you saying like, dang, that ass is fine? Or are you saying something more like something more aggressive, something that, that there's a difference. I think there is a difference between what locker room talk and boys will be boys and what's happening in the field right now. Um, and also people saying like, well, I've been with this person and they've never done that to me. And it's like, okay, but you're not the universal experience. And abusers and predators are really good at pinpointing victims and choosing their victims. And they're not going to abuse every female in the field. It may be 1 in 5 or 1 in 10. It's not because, and then they'll make friends with the other 9 so that if that 1 in 10 does speak out, the other 9 will say, oh, he's not like that.
Right.
So I think, and that's, so I did write a blog as a counterpoint to a video that was made by one of the accused. I've worked in the space of I'm a domestic violence survivor myself. I've have been assaulted. Um, I've worked with a lot of victims. I have fundraised and advocated for sexual assault victims. I worked for the San Diego Police Department very briefly, training detectives on how to interview victims.
Mhm.
I'm very familiar with this world. This was my life for a good 5 years. And then I continued to fundraise after. But a lot of the stuff that these predators are pulling is textbook. But there seems to be a lack of education in the paranormal community about how predators work, how to identify them, and like that, and that whole culture. So I'm trying to be more proactive with educating instead of saying like how can you support this person, but more so of like educating of like these are the signs you should look out for, or these are the things you shouldn't say to a victim, things like that. So yeah.
Sounds to me like you should be hitting every convention in the country doing a presentation on that.
That's
Here's the,
I've actually considered it.
here's
Yeah.
the flip side. We interviewed a group a couple months ago, and they're all ladies.
Hmm.
Amazing team, this or that. But they're telling us about an experience at a location in Michigan where the owner is giving them a tour, and his junk is literally hanging out of his shorts. And only one of them noticed it, so they say. And to the point where he finally catches on that she can see it, where at the end of the tour, he gives her the old Captain Morgan pose. And I'm like, and they're all laughing about it, and they're like, blah, blah, blah. They didn't have a problem with it. I understand that.
Hmm.
But how many other groups have walked in there like that?
Right.
I
You bring up a good point.
look, I've never had anything happen to me, but my sister, my mom, other people around me are sexual assault survivors, rape survivors, you know, and I even argued with one of my teammates this week about it. And I said, if I'm a location owner, or, if I was still at the Bell running that, somebody had accusations against me in that nature, I wouldn't just sit back and say nothing. I would be in the forefront and be like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is like one of the worst accusations you could ever bring to him towards a man.
Hmm.
So, hail to the no. I'm going to speak up about it.
Yeah.
Well, they're like, well, there's no truth to it. So why speak up to about it and then, more like just saying he's lying or this or that. I'm like, no, man, just like speak up.
Yeah.
Like this needs to be said. You having people that are pedophiles and registered pedophiles and this or that working at these locations. You got to look into these people. I don't want to dive too deep in this because this is a long rabbit hole.
Hmm.
But I hope this, the whole demon craze. I think we squashed that.
Hmm.
Next was Corbin. I hope he gets his shit together. I'm not saying quit. I've never said that.
I don't think he's irredeemable. I mean, I think I think he needs to take a break,
Yeah.
maybe read some books. I'll be happy to send him some books. Um, maybe,
Still even
do
sign
some,
him.
I'll even sign them, do some reflection, come up with a business plan, a legit business plan. Work. I don't think there's no hope for Corbin. I think Corbin could absolutely recover from this. But it's not going to be immediate. I would say probably a couple years, but absolutely. There's a growth and I even told this to him in private before he blocked me. There's a growth opportunity. This is a learning experience for him. So, I mean, I've seen way worse people recover. So,
Yeah, Brian Buell can make a comeback. Corbin Bentley
yeah. Bring up that name. Anyway, don't want to go
can. Did
up
you hear
that
that?
down.
Did you hear that, Sean? No? Okay. Never mind. Moving on.
I did hear that. Man. Sorry, his show Paranormal States what actually got me really interested in the paranormal. So I've
Same.
never met the guy. I know the story or the stories, of course, but yeah.
I worked for Ryan for about a year or two. And I'll just say that's all I'll say about that.
He's not all there. Something's missing. Yeah. Anyways, moving on. What the fuck were we talking about before I brought up the elephant in the room?
That was
We
a
were talking
long
about-
time ago.
It was a long time ago.
Oh, talk about women, the amount of women in the field and events. Yeah.
Well, we won't keep you forever.
Oh, you're good.
We'll move on. All right. We're going to ask you 3 questions here.
Okay.
Ask everybody that comes on the podcast.
Dun, dun, dun.
Uh-oh.
There is no wrong answer.
Okay. That's good.
So, all right. Tell all our loose listeners and what's it, 25,000 in 40 countries?
Yeah, we got some new countries in there too. By
Oh,
the
we got
way.
new countries?
Yeah, I'll have to let you know what those are. Some of them were like really strange, but yeah. Go ahead, I'll look them up.
Bolivarian province of Venezuela. Shout out to you. Love you guys. Anyways, all right. Tell us one interesting or weird fact about yourself.
I play roller derby. That's not a secret, but yeah, that's kind of what I do when I'm not doing spooky stuff or working. I lace up my skates and put on a helmet and I hip check other women.
And leash all that frustration out on other people.
Yes.
100%.
Apparently my hits get really hard during times of paradrama.
Yeah, I could see that. All right, next question. It's no secret that the paranormal community loves our Mexican food. Most of us. Actually, I think all of us. I don't know. It's just anyways. But we're also really quirky about our snacks, our beverages for our investigations. So tell us your go-to snacks and energy drinks, coffee, whatever.
Oh, yeah. So usually in investigations, for some reason, when I'm ghost hunting, I get really thirsty. Like I dehydrate. I don't know why. It's just when I'm out there investigating, but I seriously buy a case of water and it's like halfway gone by the time I'm done. So water is actually my big one. I'll do coffee, usually black coffee with some sweetener. And snack-wise, food-wise, I like to do Cheez-Its and beef jerky.
Cheez-Its and beef jerky.
Yep,
Can't go
my
wrong with
breath
that.
smells fantastic by the end of the night.
Let me talk to you.
Hello.
Hey, by the way, Nick, real quick here. There's a country called Zvolen, Zvolen.
Zvolen?
Zvolen.
Zvolen?
Las Condes, Bordeaux, which I think is in France, and Bogota, Colombia.
Oh.
So now
Nice.
they're listening to us in the cocaine fields.
Send me some
Whatever
free
makes their day go
Colombian
by.
Bam Bam.
Yeah.
To my address. I want to relive the 80s. No,
Anyway.
All right. Alex is like, get me off this fucking podcast.
Oh my God, no, not at all.
All right. Third question. One night, one investigation. You are only allowed to bring 3 items to investigate with. What are you bringing?
My laptop, my audio recorder, maybe my REM pod. Yeah.
Now, which REM pod?
Ooh, so I use Attic Junkie, like the
Okay.
lantern shape REM pod.
Mhm.
Probably that one. I that one I think is less invasive in the space as like ghost hunting equipment. You know, it's
Right.
it can blend in a little more.
Ghost hunting equipment, $300.
Blinky lights, noise.
Uh, which recorder do you prefer?
I use an Olympus that's pretty solid. Although my phone gets really good. It does really good audio recording. So I'm like, I'm gonna use my phone.
Yeah,
Don't
that's what you
judge
do.
me. It's
That's
quality. It's quality audio. I do want to get, oh gosh, it's of course the name's gonna escape me because I'm on the spot, but it's the one with like the where the microphones kind of crisscross a little
Oh,
bit.
like a Zoom?
the 360.
Yes. Yes, that one. I've heard some good things about that one too. It's a little expensive.
It's expensive. It's expensive. I was just curious because you know, everybody has their preference, this or that. Sean only uses his phone. He doesn't
Yeah,
own
Oh,
it.
I'm
nice.
not an equipment guy really.
But I had posted on social media like, "What's your go-to digital recorder?" And just seeing everybody's responses, and it's like
Hmm.
it was interesting. It was interesting for sure.
Nobody ever says the DR60.
Oh my God. Well, it's
Why?
the same.
I'm not paying $5,000 for that's stupid.
Well,
Well, and
even like
plus all
people that have
the
had them.
voices are the same, like everywhere, which,
Yeah.
the whole equipment malfunction with it is, yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
$5,000 for a inadequate piece of machinery with what is it? I think it's like the foam or something. It's too close to the receiver of the microphone.
I
It's something like that that's causing all that noise. But anyway,
I don't know. I'll, I'll never own one, so I don't really care.
win the lottery.
Right.
Well, now that TV shows are kind of going bunk for a little bit, maybe we can finally get some equipment at a decent price.
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah, maybe. Come
Never
on,
I
know.
Ghost
think
Stop.
I think Nick has enough equipment.
Huh. All right.
He only uses like three things.
Who?
You. I said you've
Oh,
already got enough equipment. You only use like three things. I'm
Yeah, I
kidding.
know. I know. There's like $10,000 sitting to my right here, and I use like
A
three.
REM pod, a laser grid, and a recorder. That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
nice.
That's it. Yeah. So, all right, Alex, go ahead and plug away.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, y'all can find me at thespookystuff.com. My handle on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, X, Threads, it's all the spooky stuff. Um, yeah, and I have books on Amazon available. I do sell signed copies on my Etsy shop, thespookystuff.etsy.com. And yeah, I mean, I got some books coming out in 2024, hopefully Women of the Paranormal Volume 2, as well as a book about haunted Northern Virginia. And yeah, that's me. Yay.
Love it.
Sir, in a nutshell. Help! I'm in a nutshell. Sorry,
Ha,
I had to go Austin Powers there for a minute.
And beware,
well
people
played.
of the paranormal. Do not get on Alex's bad side. You're going down.
Don't be afraid of me.
You know it's true. Stop it.
I'm
All
told
right.
I'm a lovely
Hope you had a
person.
good time. You'll be
Oh,
a
I
changed
did.
person forever.
You
This was a
appreciate it.
blast. I
You
appreciate it.
appreciate it. So hope to see you around in 2024. I'm sure I'll run into you some air convention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Will you be in Gettysburg next year for the bash?
Maybe not for the bash. Well, I may go to the bash as an attendee, but I don't have a table. So I may go though, because it's only 90 minutes away from me. So
Man, just send Pam a message. She'll get you a table.
okay.
yeah. Come on out.
Especially like I said, if you end up doing the the thing talking about, like abuse and whatever in the paranormal field. I mean, gosh, like I said, that's a whole talking point right there.
Hmm. Yeah, and
So
I think a lot of the defense, of especially with certain people. I think it just comes from lack of education, a lack of awareness. They're only going off of their own experiences, which may have happened in the 80s, 90s, or early 2000s. There's just so much education out there now.
Mhm.
So, but I just don't
Yeah.
think, I think it's just a lack. In my case, I want to say lack of awareness, because I truly don't believe that there are people, a lot of people in the field who would be intentionally supporting a predator.
Right.
So that's what I want to think, at
I
least.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't
I
know.
beg that people shut their mouths when said people benefit them.
Yeah, I mean, there is one event that's having, I mean, the elephant in the room, James and Ito. Don't put this in the podcast. Just because it's not like there's proof, but
Right.
it's not out there. It's whispered networks, but there was somebody that Becky talked to, an event planner that's having James, and the event planner said, "Well, unless I have hard proof, I'm not removing him." And I'm like, "There's screenshots." And then he did a whole live video where he named his victims, and I'm like,
Right. Right.
"What?" And I don't know. I work in the convention circuit too. Well, I volunteer for Con Carolinas, and so I'm very hyper aware of, like, when we invite guests, like, are they going to drive ticket sales and money? And so when I look at, like, James, who has taken a break and stuff, who has had limited, he's been on TV, but not a lot. But I'm like, what ticket sales is he driving to
Mhm.
justify this? Like, if you're looking at it from a money perspective, I doubt he's bringing in like $100 in ticket sales.
Right.
So that was disappointing. I distanced myself from that event planner. I was just like, you know what?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, we're not doing this. I'm not going to support you. I'm not going to keep you on my friends list. I'm not going to promote your events. I don't care if my friends are also on the lineup. I don't care. Like, that now that is a conscious decision. That's a conscious decision. So,
Right. Well, at the end of the day, all you have is your word,
mhm.
reputation,
Yep.
and that's it. So
Yep.
I don't know. We'll see what the future holds and what goes down with that situation. Um, I don't know. Maybe that'll be the whole 2024 paranormal agenda.
Nick, stop for a second. Okay. She wanted me to not put that part in, so I had got to have a spot to stop it
Oh,
and cut
thank
it
you.
out.
Sorry. I just realized
No,
we were
Oh,
you're
still
fine.
recording.
I just need to have that silent spot so I know where to end it. So you're good.
Okay. Okay.
gotcha. All right, Alex. Thank you so
Cool.
much for coming on. It was a
Yeah.
blast. Always fun talking to you.
Yeah.
Have a wonderful Christmas and Happy New Year.
You
And
too.
I'll see you around sometime next year.
Sounds good. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Till next time, guys.
Okay. Bye.
Later.